Hello everyone. Right, I have an opportunity to try something out, which is not something I'd usually be interested in, but as a lockdown special, let's have a look. Right, I thought it might be nice to do a little piece about tuning chips. Now, there's a very long battle of wills and opinions on the internet of Remaps versus tuning chips. Now I must admit, I've never been a fan of the piggyback tuning chip idea. It's not something I would usually want to put on my car because I've had Remaps before and I know Remaps are great. And the general consensus, I think, is that a remap, a well done remap, is always going to be best. You're going to get the best results for your car. Let's start with that one, so that I'm not trying to say that tuning chips are either equal or better, because they're not. But they are another way to extract a little bit of extra power from your turbo diesel engine, potentially without spending lots of money. Now, I would never buy one of these types of things at full price because I can get a remap cheaper. These newer versions, they retail at £300, £400, £500. Personally, I don't know why on earth you would spend anything like that sort of money when for, I don't know, £250, £300, a lot of reasonable remappers. Fair enough, they're not doing a custom tune for that sort of money, but you will get a remap. And it'll usually be a proven remap as well. So anyway, let's park that and just say you can go and get a remap for that sort of money. This came up at a bargain price. So, knowing how much I love a bargain, I couldn't let it pass without thinking, let's give it a whirl. I've never wanted to buy one. However, this exact unit, it's an old unit. This isn't a model that DTUK make anymore. However, it is brand new. It's never been installed on a car, and it is configured and has the right wiring harness for my exact engine. So, hey, you know, can't let an opportunity like that slip by. So I bought it, and it is indeed brand new. I can tell it's never been installed. It's like it's come straight out of the factory, but it's a slightly older model. These aren't the ones where you can dial in with Bluetooth and change the maps and things on it. You can change its map, if you like, or how much it's going to tweak with the little jumper wires that sit inside this little window that's on the end here. But essentially, tuning chips plug into your wiring harness on the engine, and they'll either be 2-channel or 3-channel units these days. The channel part of it is just referring to how many different sensors it's going to plug into and modify the signals on your engine. So this tuning chip is designed to plug into the boost sensor. So it's going to be taking the manifold absolute pressure sensor, the MAP, and it's going to modify that signal and send different information back to the ECU. It's also going to take in the rail pressure. So it's going to take the fuel rail pressure, and it's also going to modify that signal. Now, it's going to trick your ECU into actually delivering a little bit more fuel at a higher pressure, and maybe the boost pressures as well, into obviously delivering a bit more fuel and getting a bit more bang for your buck. Now, a real remap would do it in the ECU, and as long as it's a good remap, it would do it well, and you get good fuel air-fuel ratios and everything like that, and you would get the engine working very nicely. A bad tuning chip might really mess up a few things and throw some check engine lights. But in reality, I think the worst thing that can happen with one of these is that if you turn it up too high and it's amplifying the signals and telling your engine that the fuel rail pressure is lower than it actually is, and it's turning it up too much, your engine will figure out something is not right if it throws any of the parameters outside of the safe operating window, and it'll throw you a check engine light. That's the worst that I think is likely to happen, really, going off the 2 signals for the fuel rail pressure and the boost pressure. The 3-channel systems that you see, if you look at them these days, also take the crankshaft sensor, and that's a real pain in the arse on this engine to get down to. So even if there was one available, I don't think I would buy it. having done this before, the crankshaft position sensor is in a real awkward position, and I actually broke the plug a little bit when I was working on it before, so I don't want to touch that. So it's a good job this is only working off the two. Dead easy to install. There's one big plug that goes into the unit, bang. And then a pair of plugs that intercept the signal for the boost, and a pair of plugs that intercept the signal for the fuel. Plug, 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 plug. Tidy it all away with some cable ties, and Bob's your uncle, you've got more power. That's the theory anyway. In the box, straight off eBay, old unit but brand new, if that makes any sense. That's the actual unit itself. You get a couple of cable ties, you get some instructions that tell you how to install it. It's really quite simple, but I'll show you. Take all of 5 minutes, I think. And we'll see what it does. It's been sent to me on map 4. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 being the highest map. Where it's going to give us the most power, but there are different levels within each map, if you like. So you've got map 1, +1, +2, +3, or -1, -2, -3. So this has been sent to me on map 4 +1. So there are 2 more levels above this. But reading on some forums, people generally say 4 +1 is the optimal map. So that's what we're going to use. Not going to mess about with it, because to change this, it's actually a bit of a pain in the ass. You have to undo these torque screws on the back. There's a rubber gasket that seals the whole unit. You have to open it up. You have to change the jumpers on the different pins. But we could do that, and maybe I will if I want to mess about with it. But for now, let's install it on a 4 +1 map on my engine. Let's go. Okay, let's open the bonnet. Right, let's get going. First thing is get the engine cover off. Done. Okay, so the 2 areas we're interested in. Now I can tell you, you're not going to need any tools for this whatsoever. If you lift up this engine cover, so this part here is just foamy insulation. Lift it right up. This here is your fuel rail. Now this is your high pressure fuel rail, and that there is the connector we're interested in. It's right at the front. We're going to pull that off and we're going to intercept it with the harness. Now the second place you're going to be interested in getting to, it's just over here, just behind. Now if I lift up here, that plug you see just there is connected to the MAP sensor. It's the manifold absolute pressure sensor, otherwise known as your boost pressure. That's going to be telling the engine how much boost you're forcing into your inlet manifold. So we're going to take this plug off here and we're going to intercept it with the harness. Plug, 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 plug. And then we're going to fit the unit somewhere in this gap here, I think. Right, let's do it. Right, there are 2 ends to your harness, and obviously the big end that goes into the actual tuning box. Now, you can't get these mixed up really, because it tells you on here, it's written upside down, rail sensor. This one, boost. So the boost sensor is the one that's going at the back of the engine, and the rail sensor on your fuel rail. So let's get the rail sensor, which is this one, and stick it on the fuel rail. Now you can see one is the male and one is the female, so we're just going to be disconnecting the sensor from in here. So that's just here. You just press it and it comes straight off. So that's your fuel rail sensor. Oh, I should have said, just before you start doing any of this stuff, you should open your car door and let the car sit with the bonnet up for at least 10 minutes, something like that, so that all of the electronics goes back to sleep before you start disconnecting things, just to make certain you're not going to upset it. Right, let's just make sure I pick the right one up again. It's the rail sensor. Right, so first thing to do is plug our sensor onto the rail. Click. And then we're going to plug this one into the car harness. Which way around? There we go. Right, that's that one done. Now, how are we going to route this cabling? Okay, so we now want to get these 2 down back here. Let me reposition the camera, perhaps you see a bit better. Okay, so you're looking right at the back of the engine here. The sensor that we're looking for is right here. So I don't have a clip on mine, so I'm just going to pull it straight off because I broke it before. It's been on and off that many times with things for myself. Right, I think what we should do is put the plug on the actual sensor first, which is going to go like that, and then plug our actual tuning chip is right here. Now that's it really. Plug the chip right in. Make sure this rubber boot is all over it so I don't get any water ingress. And we just need to find something to cable tie it to. It'd be nice to see the there's LEDs on here to tell you when it's operating. It'd be nice to keep those facing up. So I think if I cable tie it down here, it should be all right. Right, the unit's installed at the back there, as you can just see. Cabling is running underneath our little sound deadening foam. We're going to pop the engine cover back on top, and I'll put the camera down now. But we might just need a bit of jiggery, manoeuvring to get it to sit down flat, because of course we've now introduced something under there that's actually pushing it up ever so slightly. It seemed to go on without much bother, so that's fine. Something else that comes in the kit that I didn't mention is this little dongle, which is sort of a terminator or a link, if you like, if you want to take the unit out of action. So if you found you've messed with the settings and you had, just say you wanted to take the unit back out, open it and mess with it, but you want to drive the car in the meantime, you can just plug this back into the end of that harness so that it just sort of loops back around and pretends it's not there, basically. So it's useful to have just in case you want to take it out and don't want to take the whole harness off. Right, that's it really. Let's start it up and see if we got 14 orange lights. Right, so in theory these are plug and play. We've done the plug, now let's do the play. Okay, all good. We've got no warning lights. The only warnings at the door, hopefully, is just that the door is open. Oh yeah, I've got the bonnet open still, haven't I? Anyway, there we go. Okay, we've got a really stable idle. It's not jumping around, not lurching or anything. No weird sounds. No orange lights. Happy days. Okay, so I've actually been driving the car with this tuning chip installed for a couple of days now. The difference isn't dramatic. There is a bit of a difference though. I do notice it when you've got it in sport mode and you've given it a bit of welly. In the mid-range, I don't think it's a placebo effect, but I do think there's a bit of extra give. I know I've had a few spirited drives with it so far, and it's not causing any drivability issues. And it does appear to give it a little bit more welly to get past traffic on the country lanes. So I shall be leaving it in for now anyway. But if you're expecting it to transform your car, from my experience, I would say it's not likely. But it will just give it that little extra, little bit of extra power that you might want just to get past. If you're trying to overtake 3 cars in a row, you might just make it now.